seen retrospectively, I think it was a big mistake that we did not grant Ukraine and Georgia the status and a membership action plan, it's called in technical language. They applied for a membership action plan back in 2008. We couldn't agree within NATO. I was in favor, the US president was in favor, but in particular, France and Germany were opposed to granting a membership action plan to Ukraine and Georgia. So we couldn't, and we didn't. Instead, actually, we decided that Ukraine and Georgia will become members of NATO. And that's actually, that's a stronger statement than the membership action plan. But Putin was furious. And 4 months after our summit in Bucharest 2008, he sent a clear message by attacking Georgia and de facto occupying Abkhazia and South Ossetia, two Georgian regions. So I think it was a clear mistake because we sent a signal to Putin of division within NATO and weakness, and dictators do not respect weakness.
I mean, Putin, in my opinion, and I'll listen with interest to my colleagues, Putin is rational. Putin is rational, but his rationality is confined to his worldview. And his worldview most recently became even more clear than it was already to me, when indeed he compared himself to Peter the Great, which means that after Ukraine, there's much more on the Putin menu, much more. When we give in now, I mean, look at Moldova, look at Georgia, where he has already two chunks since 2008. In other words, yes, the direct answer to your question is, I think he's bluffing. He will realize that if he makes one wrong move or puts one toe onto NATO territory, he's in big trouble.
Now, you know, I've sort of joked recently that I spent 4 years, my term, trying to persuade Sweden and Finland to join NATO. Vladimir Putin managed it in 4 weeks. And now they're going to be part of this great alliance. I think it's a huge step forward and a total renunciation of what Vladimir Putin set out to do. His objectives of dividing America from Europe failed. Divide Europe failed. Stop NATO enlargement failed again. So each of these objectives he has spectacularly failed on. And I'm really optimistic about both Finland and Sweden joining in this alliance and adding not only military capabilities as they will, but also a political dimension and political knowledge that will be invaluable in the way that NATO operates politically. And we must always remember that NATO is not just a military alliance. Indeed, it is much more a political alliance, and they will add very substantially to that strength.
So I think this is, at some point it became very visible that actually Russia is not thinking about becoming part of the global geopolitical infrastructure, if one may call it this way, in good faith. And same can be actually said about China, because what is important and what is similar in those respects is that those countries, those regimes are actually using, and I would say abusing, the rules-based world that we live in. The fact that property rights are being protected, freedom of speech, human rights, and whatever is so important to us. So they are using this in our territory, sometimes abusing those concepts of liberal democracy against ourselves.
About how can we work together in order to rebuild its energy systems. It is, of course, challenging for a country at war, but I think that, as Andrei rightly pointed it out, we have no time to lose. The most important factor is right now time. And so what we can do? First of all, I would ask us not to, I would turn it differently. We cannot afford cheap solutions. Cheap solutions in this regard that if we want to help Ukraine rebuild the system as it was before, then okay, cheap solutions will work, but will not help Ukraine in the long run in any of the aspects. First of all, if we continue, for example, with gas heating, then in fact we fuel still Russian war machine. So we need to go for a little bit more expensive solutions, such as photovoltaics, energy, heat pumps, energy storage, etc. And we must avoid at the last moment the question, oh goodness, it's a little bit more expensive. Yes, it is, but it is on the other side also decreasing the dependence of Ukraine on Russian hydrocarbons.